Hello, and welcome to Cybersecurity Today. I'm Jim Wiggins, your host. If you're joining us for the first time, let me offer you a quick overview of our show. This show is all about exploring the intricacies of cybersecurity. With my experience in the field, I aim to provide a deep and engaging analysis of computer security issues. Our program, which lasts roughly about 30 minutes, follows a style similar to a talk show or news program focusing on various aspects, subjects, and current events in the world of cybersecurity. This show is designed for everyone, from those new to cybersecurity all the way to seasoned professionals, offering key insights and viewpoints from top cyber experts on the current trends in the cybersecurity sector. Our goal is to appeal to a wide range of viewers, from beginners all the way to specialists. We hope that you find today's episode both enlightening and enjoyable. Typically, our show is structured into two separate parts. The first segment we call Cyber Bites, and this is dedicated to discussing a range of current topics and trends that are influencing the cybersecurity industry today. Following that, in our second segment, we'll be joined by Mr. Adam Wilcox, the Chief Executive Officer of 30 Bird Media. He'll be discussing 30 Bird's efforts to help train the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. All right, so let's dive into the Cyber Bite segment and explore some of the latest current events today in the cybersecurity industry. CISA has issued an urgent directive for U.S. federal agencies to address 3 recently discovered vulnerabilities in Citrix's NetScaler and Google Chrome, with a particular emphasis on Citrix RCE bug that needs patching within the week. These vulnerabilities, now listed in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, are recognized as common targets for cyber attacks, posing serious risks to federal cybersecurity infrastructures. Citrix has recommended immediate patching for the 2 specific vulnerabilities in their NetScaler appliance, which are prone to code injection and buffer overflow attacks. As a provisional measure, blocking network traffic to these appliances is advised for those unable to update immediately. Additionally, CISA has highlighted the need for swift action against a newly patched 0-day vulnerability in Google's Chrome's JavaScript engine, giving federal agencies a 3-week deadline for mitigation. Additionally, CISA has published 9 new advisories addressing significant cybersecurity vulnerabilities within industrial control systems, or ICS. These advisories, released on January 11th of 2024, alert companies using ICS products, like those from Siemens, to promptly patch their systems to prevent hacker exploitation. The bulk of these advisories highlight Siemens-related vulnerabilities, including ones in the Siemens Team Center virtual visualization and JT2Go, which pose risks of code execution and denial of service attacks. The advisories also extend to other critical vulnerabilities like command injection in Siemens SICAM A8000 and a remote login attack in Siemens Symantec CN 4100. CISA's report further details vulnerabilities in additional systems, emphasizing the need for immediate review and action by users and administrators. Those are some of the top stories making headlines today. We'll take a brief pause and return with our guest, Mr. Adam Wilcox, to talk about the role of 30 Bird Media in helping educate the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. Stay tuned, and we'll see you back here after the break.
Hi, I'm Josh Temple. You might have seen me on TV where I help folks turn their houses into dream homes. But forget construction. Parenting is the toughest job there is. So when you need help or advice, turn to the parenting experts at Boys Town.
Welcome back to Cybersecurity Today. Our next guest is Mr. Adam Wilcox, the Chief Executive Officer of 30 Bird Media, an instructional publishing company specializing in technical and business skills content development. Adam's career spans various roles, including president of Wilcox LLC, an informational design company, and chief operating officer at a prior publishing company called Axo Press. He has been instrumental in developing educational materials, documentation services, and Microsoft Office consulting. His diverse experience in product development, instructional design, and leading publications and operations has established him as a key figure in technical education, influencing the field of cybersecurity through innovative learning solutions. Today, he's here to discuss his insight on the challenging landscape of cybersecurity and the vital role of educational and instructional content like that's produced by 30 Bird Media in building a community of professionals equipped to safeguard and secure information systems. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jim. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. I was wondering if maybe we could start off with you telling us a little bit about the origins of 30 Bird Media and really what kind of inspired its founding. Can you speak to that for a minute?
Sure, I can do that. So personally, I've been in this field for about 3 decades. Actually, more than that, but I don't like to say more than 3 decades because it makes me sound old. But 10 years ago, roughly, my current business partner, Ben Chubney, he and his wife run a cybersecurity training company called Phoenix TS. And they were interested in possibly selling curriculum that they developed. So Ben started the entity 30 Bird Media LLC, and he wrote himself the first course for 30 Bird Media, which was a risk management framework course, which is, the government's risk management framework for cybersecurity implementation. And that was, I think, 2014. A few months later, he realized he didn't know anything about publishing. So he reached out to his network, and one of the people in his network was a sales rep who had worked for me at Axo Press. And that sales rep said, "Hey, you should talk to this guy, Adam Wilcox." I don't know why he said that, but he did say that. And Ben got on the phone with me, and the next thing you know, we were talking all about his potential publishing business and what it could be. We realized there was a lot of synergy between the two of us personally and professionally, and we started 30 Bird Media.
Understood. Can we talk for a moment? You provide a good background. What are some of the milestones that 30 Bird has kind of seen or experienced over that last 10 years?
Yeah, so when I came on board with 30 Bird Media, it didn't have employees. It just had an owner and a course that he developed, which was that RMF course. Ben, before I got involved, thought that he would like to do idle courseware. And so he reached out to some offshore developers and started them working on a bunch of idle courses. So that was the first real product line that 30 Bird did. Then I came on board at the end of 2014 and decided, along with Ben, that we should really focus on 2 areas. One was desktop productivity software, Microsoft Office for the most part, and on the other hand, this cybersecurity batch of things, both RMF and CompTIA certifications and certifications from other companies. So the first big milestone, I'd say, was that first course. The second was getting a product line for idle. And then the next thing was 2015, 3 of us madly developing courses on Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, and CompTIA Security Plus. And by the end of 2015, we had the beginnings of product lines, and by the end of 2016, we were selling, quite a bit. So that was really an important milestone for us.
Understood. I'm curious then maybe if you can talk a little bit about, with that rich history that you just kind of went through, what kind of trends are you seeing in terms of cyber education? You talked about, a lot of the certifications that you're working on, but over that last 10 years, what have you noted relative to how things have been kind of occurring within the cybersecurity industry? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think at one point in my career, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, all the talk was about, people use the term blended learning. And what they were talking about was blending various modes of learning. In the past 5 to 10 years, people still will sometimes use that term, but not often. Now it's usually couched in terms of online versus in person, but I don't think that's really the way to look at it. I think the big thing that's happened in the last 10 years is a move away from what you would call synchronous in-person learning to much more broadly asynchronous learning. Now, sometimes that is online, sometimes it isn't. But I like the distinction between synchronous and asynchronous, because a synchronous class is one that happens in a time frame, right? So I go and I take a class in person with Jim Wiggins, and it's 3 days in a row in a classroom, and that is the old model for learning. The new model kind of makes it a little more complex. Maybe you go to a class for a day. Maybe you then have access to some online labs. Maybe when you finish those, you have access to some certification preparation materials. Maybe you're taking a self-paced course online and you don't have an instructor at all, but you have access to a facilitator, all right, who can answer questions for you. So all this becomes asynchronous. It's not bound to time. Now, this movement's been going on for a long time, but when the pandemic hit, it accelerated tenfold. And all of a sudden, almost all learning was being done asynchronously or online. And I really think we're all still sort of wrapping our heads around how publishers like us are going to serve the training and education space in this asynchronous mode.
Understood. You talked about the pandemic. Let's talk about digital transformation, right? I mean, so historically, we've thought about education in terms of brick and mortar, like you mentioned, physical content. A lot of things today are being digitized, PDF documents, things along that nature. I'm curious, how has that transformation to kind of a digital environment influenced the way that 30Bird is creating and distributing its educational content, be it for IT and or obviously cybersecurity courses? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm old, so I'm a book guy, right? I grew up with books, actual books that you look at. And at the beginning of my career here, everything was actual books. As I was talking about earlier, people started talking about blended learning not too long after that. And not too long after that, at least for 20 years, maybe 25 years, people started saying, well, books are going to go away because all learning is going to be online. It's going to be digital. And that didn't happen. It didn't happen as quickly as people thought it would. We always felt, okay, we have to have digital solutions, whether that's ebooks or e-learning. But I would say we moved with some caution toward that because the books still sold, and the ILT classroom, the instructor-led training classroom, was still very much a thing, and people still liked having books, and people still do. It was, and if you look at the history of publishers and their sales in print versus electronic forms, it did move away from print for the past couple of decades, but not as quickly as you might think. Now, that all went into hyperspace speed with the pandemic, and suddenly everything was online. Now, it's come back a little bit. We, like a lot of publishers, are selling more books than we were in 2020, 2021, but not as many books as we were in 2019 by any means. So yeah, the challenge is serving that existing market, serving these new emerging markets. So what do? Do you primarily design content that is kind of like agnostic of mode? Now, we tried that. When we first started, we had in our minds, okay, we need to be in this sort of mode neutral development model. So we went with an XML-based publishing system, and the idea was everything was going to be tagged and structured, and that would make it very easy we thought 10 years ago, to export what we'd done into many different modes. Okay, that turned out to be not as easy as one might think. And we kind of backtracked from there. We went away from XML at a certain point because we basically found that wasn't giving us the bang for the buck that we hoped it would. When we had to put things into ebooks, and even more so when we tried to work with partners on e-learning, they'd say, "Yeah, we don't want your XML. Just give us a Word document." Mm-hmm. Sort of funny, but we're still struggling with this question, Jim. It's the fundamental question for publishers like us. How do you make content that you can use in all these different forms and deliver in all these different ways? What's the best way to develop that so that it's easy to use in different modes? And it's hard.
Understood. Let's talk now about professionalization. I know that a lot of our viewers are interested in trying to get into the cybersecurity field, the cybersecurity career. How does 30 Bird Media contribute to professional certification or the professionalization of cyber workers within the cyber industry? Can you speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of jobs will ask people for certifications. They will say, "What certifications do you have?" or even make it a barrier to entry. We're not going to hire anybody who doesn't have a particular certification for a particular role. So how do you get there? Well, you could go to school, but going to school can be expensive and time consuming. So there's a real need for offering people various ways to train themselves up or become trained up to the point where they can take these certification exams and put that on their resumes and apply for jobs that they would not otherwise be qualified for. So I think our role, quite simply, is to create the best content we can to help people prepare for those certification exams. And that's, in essence, what we try to do.
Understood. Without naming names or putting anybody on the spot, can you share any success stories from feedback of individuals that have used your materials for certifications? Anything you could share with us?
Well, we're a publisher, so we're kind of 2 degrees of separation from the learners in most situations, right? So we don't get an awful lot of direct contact with the learners. We have schools, we have trainers, and they say all kinds of nice things about how good our courseware is.
Nice.
But no, I don't have a lot of stories directly from the learners.
Got it. Okay. But ultimately, you've got good feedback that comes in from a lot of your partners, and yeah, I got it. Okay, that makes sense. Let's talk now a little bit about obviously you're in publishing and you focus a lot in cybersecurity. In your opinion, what are some of the key elements that contribute or are related to effective cybersecurity education? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think at a minimum, you have to be correct and you have to be up to date. And that is very difficult with the pace change of the technological world we live in. So that's very important that we do that. But I think it's also important that the materials not be distracting. What do I mean by that? I mean that they're very easy to understand, that they're written in plain English, that there's not more information than there needs to be or less, that it isn't in essence about the training materials. It's about the learner and it's about the instructor if there is one. So we try to be really careful to make correct materials that aren't distracting. So that's very important. But I think the biggest challenge we have is staying up to date. And that's sort of a complex challenge because on the one hand, the technology advances every single day, every single minute. On the other hand, we serve the certification market, and the certifications, of course, don't move as quickly as the technology, right? So we have to always balance creating courses that prepare people for their certification exams with creating courseware that prepares people to do their jobs in the world. And these things are at sort of different time points in the world we live in. So I think that's the biggest challenge is balancing those things.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I ask all my guests that come on the show this question. I always like to have them look into their crystal ball, kind of looking into the future. What kind of emerging trends are you seeing specifically in the IT and or the cybersecurity education that you're starting to pay attention to, or that you're starting to take note of, or that you're thinking about maybe investing in just because you see the potential upside in the next couple of years? Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, part of it is what we've already covered about, the asynchronous world we're living in, how we create technology delivered products more easily and quickly. So that's one thing we absolutely have to do. The other thing I'm going to say is probably what everyone would say to this question, which is the influence of AI on all of this, right? So, about a year ago, I had been actively ignoring ChatGPT and AI for a long time. I just felt like I want nothing to do with that. Again, I'm old, and maybe I felt threatened by it. I don't know what. But a young friend gave me a tour of a bunch of the AI tools about a year ago. And I immediately realized, as I think most of us have at this point, that this is going to change absolutely everything. It's very threatening if you do what we do. I can ask ChatGPT to design a course on cybersecurity, and it will do it in minutes. So that's a little threatening to people who do what I do. Now, what you find when you dig in is, well, it does it, but it doesn't do that good a job. You really have to sort of coax out smaller chunks by having good queries, and all that is true. But there are a couple ways that AI is absolutely changing everything. One is that, yes, it will generate content. And we immediately started using it to help us generate content. It doesn't write for us, but we will often use it to draft new little bits of information, and then we will curate what the AI does. So that's one big thing. But I think more exciting to me is the idea that we can use artificial intelligence as a content moderator or curator itself. So, if we create self-paced online learning, could we have some kind of AI that sort of acts as a bridge between pre-assessment and the actual content that's delivered, right? So can we do a pre-assessment and then have artificial intelligence say, okay, what content do I need to give this person to get them from, A to Z in the most efficient manner? I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's, I think, the holy grail of education and cyber, right? That not everybody who comes into a classroom or everybody who pursues a certification comes with the same knowledge set. And so if you could figure out where their delta is, you could effectively just close that gap. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty powerful.
And people have been talking about this for years, but I think the artificial intelligence is gonna make it happen sooner, which is really good. And the other thing about AI and its ability to potentially replace us, Jim, you and I, right, is it's not going to replace us, but it does raise the bar for what we do. We have to be better. We have to be different, right? We have to add value in ways that the technology currently can't. And that will always change that line, what the technology can do. People will often say to me, well, it can't do blah, right? And I'll say, yeah, wait 10 minutes, or 6 months or a year, it will be able to. But I find that exciting. It's a challenge, and I'm always up for a challenge.
Understood. We're getting low on time. I have two more questions for you. First one is, what advice would you offer, cyber professionals seeking to stay current in the ever-evolving field of both IT and cybersecurity? Any guidance that you can give our viewers in that respect?
Oh my, guidance. I think I've always believed in any kind of learning that the real holy grail for learning is a little bit of classroom or self-paced, and then a lot of practice. So what I would say is don't overburden yourself with taking too many courses and getting too many certifications before you actually practice, what is in the field. So in some way or another, find a way to use what you're learning. Whatever you're going to learn, take a class, go online, take a self-paced course, but then as immediately as possible, get out there and practice it. Find a way. Maybe you've got a friend who has a business and they have no cybersecurity at all. Take a course, then look at what they're doing and give them advice, and learn about it. That's one way to go. But that's really what's essential is doing.
That makes sense. For our viewers that want to learn more about 30Bird, how would they reach out and learn more about the organization and the content that it provides?
They can come to our website, 30bird.com, 30bird.com. There it is in my background, 30bird.com. And there's many ways to contact us on there. There's an email link, there's a phone number. Call us, write us. One of the things I think is good about 30Bird is we're very personal here. We take personal connection to people very seriously. So if you call, we'll pick up the phone like an actual person. If you email, you might get to meet. I'll write you right back. So that's what I would suggest.
That's great. Thank you. Adam, we are out of time. Thank you for coming in and offering such valuable insight to our audience. We greatly appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me, Jim. This was fun and interesting.
Absolutely. So, guys and gals, that's going to conclude today's episode. We'd again like to extend our gratitude to our guest, Mr. Adam Wilcox, for joining us and sharing his insights on the role of educational content in cybersecurity, especially the contributions of 30Bird Media. We hope that you found today's show informative and engaging, and that it provided some new insights into the world of cybersecurity. To learn more about cybersecurity today and stay updated on future episodes, please visit the show's website at www.cybersecuritytoday.org. Also, you can use the QR code at the bottom of your screen to easily gain access to the show's website. Additionally, you can also reach out to us with any questions or comments and email us at contact@cybersecuritytoday.org. We look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast. Thanks a lot for joining us. Stay safe and stay informed.